So, Kiri, you come highly recommended. So I'm kind of excited to be interviewing you. Let's get this started. This is
Okay.
questions, and I have with me Kiri. Boom. High five, Kiri.
High five. Or Wi-Fi, as we do in my house.
Oh, I love Wi-Fi. Absolutely. Hey, Kiri. So I know you're very talented. I know you're very creative. I know you wear many kind of creative hats, like you're an author, you have a publisher. That's how I kind of got through to you. But you also have fans. I know other authors that have said, "Hey, man, you gotta."
Hopefully, authors just have fans in general, but I know what you're talking about.
Absolutely, like, you gotta do Kiri. She's awesome. Okay, well, I'll reach out to Kiri. So I'm gonna get your books. Molly's gonna send them over to me, or your book she'll send over to me. I don't have it yet, but I want you to interview you because when I started doing some research on you, you have this very cool kind of fresh YouTube channel. I know you've just started, but what I'm so stoked is I'm such a big believer in YouTube, Kiri. In a sense of long term, that I thought, at least you get it. At least you have one. I know we all use social media, Facebook and so forth. But YouTube is almost like you're owning your own channel, right?
Yeah.
And I saw your different characters, and you're from you're up north. You're from up north, Washington.
Initially, yes, but now I do live in Los Angeles.
Oh, that's awesome. And what did you move to LA for? I mean, that's a big move.
It is, but voice acting is one of the things I really wanted to pursue, as well as just my job ended up sort of taking me down this way. I've always wanted to be more involved in film production in some way, and my YouTube job, many hats. My YouTube channel actually helped launch me into working at Maker Studios a few years ago, which has much changed a lot. They were bought out by Disney, and there's unfortunately a lot of layoffs, but they made a lot of web content, and I got to do programming and producing from there, and then getting to create web content with a budget and other creators, and it was a really exciting, that's really what I want to, like, that right there is just, that's my bread and butter of, it was great.
So I lived in Hollywood for 16 years. I lived just off Melrose and Spalding, and I have a very extensive career in Hollywood. So Kiri, when you're young, enjoy Hollywood when you're young, and thoroughly enjoy it, because when you have kids, everything changes. So,
well, that sadly will not ever be a problem for me.
so you're gonna thoroughly enjoy it. Me and my wife had such an amazing time there. It's just that, I have 5 boys now, so things change drastically.
Oh, wow.
So I've got to take care of that. But Hollywood, I mean, everything about Hollywood was great. From the parties to the networking to the filmmaking process to, I worked a lot in post-production. I worked on many movies. I directed a few features, or almost a dozen short films. It was a great experience. And then I just became an editor, and I spent a lot of time in the dark room, like 18 hours a day sometimes. I had a leather sofa. I would be sleeping on my leather sofa because I was so tired. Between sessions, because when a producer came into the room, or the director, you had to be on top form. So, but let's talk about you, Kiri. So Kiri, I mean, so now you're in LA. I'm sure you're just loving it, right? I mean, it's just kind of your...
I mean, right now we don't get really to experience it, but normally I really love LA.
yeah, absolutely. And what is your goal coming to Hollywood and coming to because LA is a big city. Hollywood is a city within Los Angeles.
Yes.
What is your goal being down here and getting opportunity, long-term, short-term?
Right now, I work in distribution in regards to the movie industry. I would prefer to move back towards production, and whether it's helping create stories from a more creation process from the very beginning, or being a part of those stories with voice acting. Stories are what fuel me. I think that ultimately stories are what change the world, because more or less when we have someone tell us something, there's all this like resistance in our brains of like, well, I don't know, when someone just comes out and tells you something directly. But then you go and you read a book, or you watch a film, or you see something sort where that message is kind of snuck in a way where you're not immediately going to reject it because someone's just said, well, this is the way it is. You've just sort of had it presented to you, and you're like, oh, well, maybe that is how things are. I'm gonna go and think. So like stories in general are my passion, but especially stories that really sort of get your brain going, of like, maybe you'll approach something a little bit differently, or you'll think a second time before like you say something mean to your younger sister or something to like, I don't know.
Well, you've been in Hollywood. I'm sure you've heard of Joseph Campbell.
Yes.
Of course, yeah. And I apologize. I knew you would have. And that's
Oh, you're
why
fine.
I was a big fan of Joseph Campbell, because I was a big fan of George Lucas. I worked at DreamWorks for 6.5 years. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, it was very nice. I was around a lot of influential, big time filmmakers. So Joseph Campbell is just part of our discussions and the books we read. You know, Here with a Thousand Faces. And because he was a big, George Lucas was a big advocate of his as well. So that kind of helped. Steven Spielberg and George Lucas were very, very good friends. And that was a good time. I really enjoyed it. What I did know, what I can help you with, Kiri, is if you want to get back into production, try and get back into it, because once I landed up in post-production, I was there for like another 11 years. And I'd wish I spent the 11 years trying to focus more on production, because I really enjoyed the process of making movies, even the post-production part. But there is a part of production that's, you know, every day was different. Every day was a different location, different scene, different actors. And
Yeah.
I looked more for the comfort, so I got back into post-production, which was a little bit more security than production. However, at the end of the day, I wish I'd focused on production, what I'm trying to say. And so you're at Disney, doing distribution at Disney now, Kiri?
Yes, I work for a subsidiary of Disney called Movies Anywhere. So we're essentially in the digital distribution space of
Nice.
no matter where, like, it's not super exciting, but it's useful. And I do like being a part of something that's useful.
Absolutely.
And especially during this uncertain time, I am very grateful to be in a privileged position with my work that I can work from home safely. And our business is booming because digital movies right now are obviously really high up there when no one can leave their home.
Right. I look at it. I look at this. Like what I'm doing right now. This channel of mine, this podcast, is to kind of fund the perfect life. It's for me. Actually, I want to get back into production. So I want to fund movies, but I need money to fund movies, right? So that's how I look at this for as well. Curious that I can use this platform to do my own productions. And so that's really, to me, that I can get the experience of, you know, being a really good host. And then also at the same time, it still funds my lifestyle. You know, I think I love YouTube. I spend hours on it a day because I see the benefits of YouTube. I love social media. However, I see a lot more benefit in YouTube than anything else. And this is a long-term game plan, Kiri. Is that the same thing for you? I mean, in Hollywood, you got to do what you got to do because you got to pay the bills.
Yeah.
It's like being a waitress or a waiter. You know, you're an actor, but you need that time off to go for auditions, so you become a waiter. That way you can have that flexibility. It's just something you have to do. At the same time, thank God, because you're having a good time, because you're still in the creative entity of that world. And like you said, digital media is just, it's everything right now. And it's going to be for the future.
Absolutely.
So what is it that you, are you going to, from your books, are you going to go into screenplay writing, or are you going more into performing? What's kind of the goals for the character for Kiri?
A little bit of this, a little bit of that. I have a primarily performer background, but I did study playwriting. I had a minor in playwriting, and I've dabbled with that in the past. I actually had a play featured at the Hollywood Fringe Festival last year, which was a really exciting thing for me.
Well done.
Yeah, and my fiance, she's a screenwriter. So there's a few things that like we're working on together because she's a master of structure when it comes to screenplays. Because like with the great thing with novels is, right, like you don't have to worry about like, okay, but this is the runtime. Like I just finished the second draft of my second book before I like edit it one last time, and then I send it off to an editor, hopefully to get their more expertise. And it capped out at about 136,000 words, which you just cannot do, obviously, with a movie. But I was like, if she tells me to edit it down, I will. But right now I feel like this is kind of like, this is the words that it took to tell this. And that's one luxury I will say that you have when it comes to novels versus
a screenplay.
Scripts, unfortunately.
The scripts are between 90 to 120 pages, and each page is about a minute long, give or take. I do know that when I wrote my autobiography, there was 40,000 words, so you're like 5xing it there, Kiri. But I
mean, there's a lot of world building in there. Like, with an autobiography, hopefully most people know the world you're living in.
Right.
But who knows? Maybe you've got a whole secret Narnia life we don't know about, Kevin.
Absolutely. And Kiri, the one thing I do love about being creative is it's in a sense, it's your world that you're taking from your mind and putting in paper. Now, because I've taken books and I've actually drafted them into screenplays, and you can ask Marty this, she kind of give me the content. I would crunch it down like in just to sometimes 1 or 2 sentences, and she'd be devastated. But I tell Marty, hey, Marty, this is for the screen. The books that you give me are not, those are 400 pages, 500 pages.
Precisely.
Really condensed and crunched. So is your
an
book
adaptation for a reason. It's not supposed to be a direct retelling. If it was, it would be a mini series at best.
A movie, yeah, absolutely. And so, Kiri, what got you into this creative form? Were you born, or did you self-discover it growing up?
I came out of the womb holding a quill, Kevin. No. My mother and my sister were really big into writing prior to me. I'm the youngest of 3. And my father was very obsessed with the classics growing up. I didn't get a lot of time with him as a child because he was a medical practitioner. So if he wasn't at the office, he was at the hospital doing rounds. But I used to, Sunday mornings, he would usually have off because we'd have church. My family is very religious. And we'd read Shakespeare. He'd read me Shakespeare.
Wow.
And I will never forget, like,
that's fascinating.
Just laying on a blanket as a child listening to Macbeth as like the sun's like coming in, and it was just, I don't know. That's a weird golden memory from childhood, is just having my dad pretend to be the witches and like doing these weird little voices.
And Macbeth is a very dark side of Shakespeare, right? I mean, and maybe that's why you're drawn to, because you're kind of like, and I love how you say went to church on Sunday, and then you have Kiri go to Hollywood.
But I think it's such a great play. Like, if kids are, you've got like a younger kid and they're not really interested in the classic, it's such a great play to sort of indoctrinate them, because you have, you've got witches, you've got fate, you've got destiny. It's one of his, if I'm trying to remember if it is his shortest play. If it isn't, it's really close. It's one of the shorter ones, but it's like blood and da-da-da, and it's action, and what a better way to get like a kid involved in a classic, of like, oh, it sounds all very like, haha, but this is what's going on. And then he'd explain, like, he'd read the text and he'd be like, do you know what I'm saying? And I'd be like, no, because I'm 7. And he'd be like, okay, this is what's happening right now. And I'm like, okay.
I like that. Kiri, it makes so much sense, because my son, he's 20 and he's a DJ and he produces music. And at night, he was like a little bit radical. He was just, if I show him the Batman movie, he'd go and put makeup on like the Joker, and he'd like act the parts out. I looked at my wife like, is this kid like okay? Meanwhile, he turned to me. But it was interesting at night to pacify them. I'd like play Queen or ABBA for them to bed. Just, because we're in Hollywood, it's a very, it's surrounded by entertainment. It's everywhere, billboards and signs and helicopters above and all that kind of stuff. And now today, if I'm in the car with him, he's playing like the classics, which is so interesting. I never knew I had that effect on him as a young child. So even though he loves EDM, because that's what he produces, Kiri, he still has an appreciation for the classics. Queen, ABBA, I'm talking exactly, the stuff that's almost like timeless, right? Macbeth is timeless. And your content, when I get your book, which I'm going to do another interview with, which will be amazing. But I think that this interview is just to get to know you. I was stoked that you're a YouTube fan and a channel, and I will have Kiri's YouTube channel details in the description box below. So please go to it, support Kiri. Kiri is, Ren Cummins. When I was interviewing Ren, because I was talking about you, Kiri, I'm like, okay.
Ben Cummins is the classiest man. He's such a lovely human being, and I'm sad that we are no longer even remotely close to each other distance-wise, because just like it's funny because I remember we met and we became very fast friends very quickly, and we occasionally we're best buddies, and then every now and then I'll be like, Ren, I need the dad voice to tell me it's going to be okay, because I'm having a little internal crisis. And it's so great. I was just like, everything's going to be okay. I'm like, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's such a wonderful class act.
He does, even his style. He's an intellectual. This a man who's written over 10 books. I think in his 13th or 14th book.
Yeah, he's so good at getting him out. I envy that. I agonize over a draft for years.
Are you looking at taking your books into the film world? Is that kind of your ultimate dream, Kiri?
It really depends on the book. The current ones I'm working on right now I see them very cinematically, but I also know a lot would perhaps need to be changed to the core structure of it to make it viable for scripts. And I'm not just talking about cutting out little bits of information, but it's interesting. I can my fiance is a scriptwriter, as I said before, and she goes out and pitches constantly, and okay, well, this is what this is, so this is probably something Netflix is going to more want, or it's just everyone's looking for a very certain flavor. And I think if it ever went to a film, it would have to be probably more of a Netflix place, just based on the actual the premise essentially starts with, in the first book, and I won't give anything away to anyone or whatnot, but the premise starts with the main character's best friend committing suicide. And just that darker premise, I know there's a lot of the people who just I don't know if we want to touch this, just because that's where it starts with, but it has to start there, because the whole thing in its own way is sort of dealing with, in a very abstract fashion, grief and recovery and the weird survivor's guilt you feel when someone you really love has left in that manner. And it was sort of a love letter to my brother, who also passed in the same fashion in 2013. Oh, sure. But it's one of those things I'm happy to be able to talk to people about now, because it is such a weird experience to have someone that you grew up with just suddenly gone like that, and be like, okay, we're going to talk about this, and we're going to talk about the stages of grief and what your brain does, but we're going to do it in a manner that's an adventure story, essentially. And we're going to talk about certain psychological concepts this way, where it's a more tangible thing that you can kind of wrap your brain around. And I know, coming from that perspective, with it being such a strange premise, it's not something that, say, WB would probably pick up. You know what I mean? The people who bought Harry Potter probably won't be coming for my book if that's the way it goes. But that's okay, because I've also got other stories.
Absolutely. I think also, Kiri, you write what you know. And please don't get me wrong, I haven't experienced what you've experienced, but I do know that you can go deeper because you've experienced it. So it's not something that not that you're making it up, but it's something that you can really have a good understanding on when putting the thoughts, the feelings, and the emotions down on paper, because that's always the hardest part. And trying to convey that story, trying to get that across to the reader or the audience. So it's sad that happened, especially your brother of all people. Again, please don't take this wrong. I like the idea that you've turned it into hope. you've turned it into something that's special where you can carry on his legacy, because clearly there was something special there. You know, he was part of your family for a reason. It's nice that you've been able to draw from that energy in a positive way, because I'm sure you'll be able to help other people, because there's so much strife in the world today that people are looking for hope. They're looking for message. They're looking for answers. They're looking for guidance. And sometimes you have to go through the hard journey so you can be there for them to help them go through their journey, even if it's not as big as yours, which is sad to say. You know, we all have kind of hard times, and I think this channel has helped me get out a lot of my energy inside of me, because I've done a lot of writing, but at the same time, I love production, and I love YouTube, and I love what I'm learning, what I'm creating. So I still feel worthy. I feel purposeful. I don't feel like I'm just sitting there reading a book, dilly-dallying. Kiri, has your brother's experience helped you a lot, or is that just part of the equation?
I mean, as always, it's always just part of the equation in some way. Like, it's a very complicated tangle of things. Like, we had a very complicated relationship when we were children, and then it started to get better near the end when we were both adults, and then he was gone. So going through that, and then sort of dealing with my own mental health and being able to go, okay, I've seen this in him, and if I see this here, I know what I need to do and what I need to do for myself so that I don't go down that similar road.
Wait, Kiri, I thought you're perfect, Kiri. I thought you're perfect.
Where did you hear that lie? I must pay that person so much.
Yeah.
No, but it's been a very interesting, I think actually my channel really started around the time my brother passed, and it was sort of a way to filter through. One, I didn't have a lot of creative outlets at the time because I was just out of college and just trying to make my ends meet and pay student loans, which are still terrifying, but now I'm in a position where like I can keep them at bay. So YouTube sort of became my way of sort of reaching out and getting to meet people or talk and create with no budget and no real resources other than my first video camera was actually his.
Wow.
So I got that when he passed.
Yeah.
And I have it somewhere still. I don't use it anymore because it's not the greatest. But
Kiri, can I see that video? Because I watched that video and that's where I saw this creative force in you.
Okay.
When I saw the video, I was like, wow, you played all these different characters and all the different scenes. Clearly, a lot of it was improvised because you were using whatever you could find as backdrops and as props and so forth.
Oh no, which video was it?
You're like an investigator.
Oh!
So I was like, man, this lady is creative. I got to get her on camera and ask her some questions. Kiri, I think we all have this mind that is, it's a misunderstanding. I think there's such a creative force and it controls every element of our existence. I'm not saying emotion-wise, but logical-wise, because I like to make decisions. I like to think with my heart and make decisions with my mind. Again, Kiri, you know, the mind is an explosive environment where you're dealing with thoughts and feelings and purpose that sometimes I don't want to share with the world. I'm like, okay, I'll keep that to myself, you know. But I think that also is what drives us and makes us better human beings, because ultimately, at the end of the day, you now being in Hollywood can have a good cause and a good purpose because you've been through the school of hard knocks. You know, a lot of, when I was in Hollywood, it was the individuals that got handed everything that did nothing with it. It was those that had to fight for it, that had everything. I'm talking like the Ron Howards. I'm talking the Steven Spielbergs. I mean, these guys. I met. So I did a short film for Sam Raimi. You remember Sam? He did the Spider-Man movie.
I am very familiar with Sam Raimi.
So Sam Raimi, his assistant hired me to do a short film for his son's bar mitzvah, and it was about his son's bar mitzvah, and it was amazing because the Raimi fame was so incredible, and I was curious, and I said to his assistant, I said, um, I had met Sam a few times because he'd come to the set and he goes around the house and so forth when we were filming, but I'd never bothered him because out of respect. But I knew who Sam Raimi. There's Sam Raimi, and he'd come say hello to me and so forth. But I never like, oh wow, I kind of fall at his feet. But I remember I asked his assistant, I said, how did he become so successful? And he said every single weekend when he wasn't working or in school, Kiri, he was making movies. So he was either writing them or filming them in the swamps or doing casting every single weekend. And he made like something like 250 odd films, you know what I mean? Just because writing and scribbling and shorts and whatever it may be. But now look at him. Now he's a game changer. And I think he's having a revival. He's coming back, thank goodness. Kiri, are we going to see you being a filmmaker, director, producer, or maybe just writing? Well, what's the future hold for Kiri?
Is it absolutely ridiculous to say I just want to do all of it?
Well, look at Quentin Tarantino. I mean, he is phenomenal. I left Hollywood at that time when the Quentin Tarantinos and the Steven Soderberghs were really making. They took the studio system and made it independent. So now you can, Kiri, write your own content, star your own content, produce your own content, and direct it. You can. Because of
technically that's what YouTube is.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. Well done. You hit the nail on the head, and you can make whatever you want, and they can't stop you.
Indeed. But one day I'd like to sort of do, I don't think I'd like to do all of them at once on a bigger project, but I would like to try a hand at each one, just because I've enjoyed in the past doing a lot of them and realizing like, yeah, if you're a content creator on YouTube, you're kind of used to being all the hats. And so I very much relate to the whole 18 hours like editing. It's not like something very fancy. It's like it's a YouTube video, but goodness, I've definitely gone through so much footage to edit together a long educational video.
And almost when you go back, if you go back now, look at your old videos, like, oh man, there's always like, we always can polish it, right? Like, oh, I missed that, or oh, I could have done that, or because I'm the same way. Hey, Kiri, I want to thank you for your time. Like, do you mind if I share your YouTube video in the description box below?
Oh, by all means.
Guys, support Kiri. Kiri's awesome. I don't know who. I just became a fan because I saw some videos of Kiri on YouTube, and she's got a fan base with her other author relationships and friendships and so forth. And her publicist is amazing. Marty sent me a bunch of books, and I'm having so much fun. Kiri, thank you for your time. You're awesome. And I think distribution also helps you understand the production part. So when your movie's finished, what mediums you can go through to get it out there. And
exactly. So now I've been kind of like creation, production, distribution, post-production. So it's like, all right, I know where I want to go back to, but I know how the pipeline works.
Absolutely, exactly, the pipeline. Kiri, can you leave us with one thing that aspiring artists, I mean, of all forms, acting, scripting, directing, producing, painting, whatever, can you give some hope for their dreams or coming to Hollywood, or even if they're in New Zealand, Kiri?
I would say if you are starting out, there are two things that I try to go by. And one, if people are veterans of my channel, they know, because I say it at the end of every video, which is to stay curious, because as your brain is consistently bringing in new knowledge, you'll get more inspiration. I feel like very much you need to consume so much art and all the things around you in order to really be a successful artist. And I don't mean like successful in regards to like, oh, I've got 1 million followers and I make all this money. I mean, if you're going to create something with any inch of truth, you have to be curious about the world around you, and also practice vigilant empathy, because which is sort of an emotional curiosity of, if you make assumptions about people and just sort of close off of like, oh, well, that person's just a jerk. No, because no one really in real life is just a jerk. There's a reason they're that person, and it doesn't excuse their actions, but there's a reason they are that way. The same way with your characters or someone you're portraying or directing, they are that way. And I think the more empathetic we try to be about other people's stories, the better we can sort of not just make what we're creating, but we're better able to create for our audiences and the world that they live in.
I love that. And so literally, it's like just having an appreciation for all forms, all creative entities. Absolutely, I love that, kid. That was awesome. Wow. Okay.
Well, thank you.
What to think about? That was a little bit heavy, but
That's kind of our whole thing on the Curiosity channel. It's just all that right there.
Kiri. That was brilliant. Kiri, thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
time. You've been wonderful.
Thank you.
I'm gonna reach out to you again because I want to get this book of yours. I can't wait.
Awesome.
We'll have a nice discussion about that, and you have a great day, Kiri.
You as well. Thank you.
Cheers.